Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star's daily sports podcast. It's Tuesday, May 19th, and I'm Blair Kerkhoff. Today, Missouri beat writer Souichi Terada and I checked in with Tigers basketball coach Cuonzo Martin. If you recall, Mizzou finished the regular season strong but didn't get to play in the SEC tournament, which was swept up in the COVID-19 cancellations in mid-March. We talk about the season, why the Tigers improved over the final few weeks, what's in store for next season, and other topics like how to implement name, image, and likeness, the ramped-up non-conference schedule, and in subjects I always find interesting these days, what is Cuonzo Martin reading and watching at home? So here we go with Cuonzo Martin and Souichi Terada. All right, so Cuonzo, just to begin with, we want to ask you what life has been like for these last 2 months, 9 weeks, and in this crazy COVID world that we're in. What kind of, just personally for you and your family, how are you? How have you been? And how are you making the adjustments?
Well, I'm doing fine. My family's doing well. And also the extension of my family, my brothers, my sisters, my mom, my wife's side of her family doing well. Of course, the pandemic has caused mass hysteria and also deaths, all that is very unfortunate in our world today. But me personally, I think it's just been good to one, get a peace of mind, to take a step back, but also spend time with family.
Yeah, I imagine you have a lot of more time with family. And I've talked to some coaches who, and some people in other sports that just aren't used to being home this time of year. Has that been a sort of maybe a silver lining a little bit to this?
Well, I think that part has been great, but but there's also a downside, if you will, when it comes to sport, especially with student athletes, because what happens, I knew as a player, and I'll speak for myself, I knew as a player, you didn't want it oftentimes, but you needed the discipline, the structure, and the boundaries. And now when you have student athletes that's been going for so long, you're talking about some athletes in all sport from the ages of 3, 4, and 5, and they've just been going. And then all of a sudden it stops for a month or two. That is a hard thing to grasp. I guess the first week or two is tough. Then all of a sudden you feel like you got a peace of mind, you got some space, and all of a sudden, where's my structure, my boundaries? I need that. And I think for athletes, you like to be in your environment around other athletes. Iron sharpens iron, the everyday life, even though sometimes you feel like you're an adult, you don't want it, but you need it.
Hey, Cuonzo, obviously a couple new transfers here. I do want to focus on Drew a little bit. What was kind of the sell to him? I mean, you already have a couple point guards on the roster, but and he's more of a ball handling guy too, point guard. I guess what was kind of the sell for him, especially with kind of your vision and the future of the team for the next season?
Well, I think the biggest keys for us in selling him, and I'll say a lot of different things, and hopefully I answer that question, but really in selling him was an opportunity to come play with some quality guys, quality student athletes, guys we feel have a chance to be a really good team, of course, if you're healthy. And obviously you let them know about X Pence and Drew Smith, who are talented guys who played as well as any guard combo down the stretch of you're talking the last 9 games of the season, they're probably the best combo guards down the stretch. So now you're selling a guy who's a grad transfer, has a lot of opportunities to go a lot of different places, and he chose to come here because he felt like there was a great opportunity, but it also speaks volumes about him as a person to want to come be a part of this type of environment. And, he saw the guys. I mean, and plus the thing about him, which when I talked to him via phone, and FaceTime and all that, just really working on his offense from the standpoint, looking to score, because he can got to get to the rim. He's strong body. His body is very similar to Drew Smith's body, but he's a guy that loves to pass the ball and distribute. So now with, X and Drew, guys that can, Drew Smith and X, who guys that can score the ball, you have them on the floor with him along with the other guys that we have. So I just thought it was a great selling point for him to come in and be a part of something, and also him understanding what he's coming into and really embracing that. So it speaks volumes about him.
Yeah. Hey, Cuonzo, real quick. I wanted to ask, you have 2 Drews now and 3 Smiths. What are you going to call Drew Smith?
I don't know if it's D1, D2. Who knows? I mean, we'll figure something out. I mean, again, I'm glad to have all those guys on board because I think they exude what we want in the program: character, student athletes, and guys I think want to be successful. Not only just successful athletes, but also have successful lives and successful careers.
And talking Ed Chang a little bit, I spoke to him a couple of weeks ago, and obviously everyone's going to look at his shooting, especially after last season, where the ball probably didn't go in as much as you guys wanted it to. But his defense, I mean, it is still a Cuonzo Martin team. I know to see the floor, you have to play defense. I guess, what have you kind of seen from him on that? And he mentioned San Diego State was a good experience for him defensively and everything.
I think it was. And now one thing about it, he could shoot the ball. And when we started recruiting him when he was in high school, and we went in a different direction. He went in a different direction. But we recruited him out of high school, knew he's a guy that could shoot the ball, thought he had tremendous potential with good size, good length. In high school, it was more offense for him. And I think the thing that helped him, because oftentimes you can go someplace and it doesn't work out, but there's still growth in that situation. I think being at San Diego State helped him from a defensive mindset because we went off to Salt Lake Junior College. He did a great job with his defense, running down guys, blocking shots, moving his feet. And I think he's one of those guys that will be able to do a lot of things for us defensively. And again, with his ability to make shots, he will stretch the floor wherever he is on the floor. And I think that's a great asset to have.
Cuonzo, how about just kind of in the moment addressing the guys that have applied to the NBA draft and what kind of decisions they make, what went into those decisions, and how can you help them?
Well, with talks with me, talks with our compliance people, and just really helping those guys understand what they get themselves into. And talking with X even before the season, we felt like this was something that if he played the way he played, especially the way he played down the stretch of the season, he would have an opportunity. At least whether he goes or stays, to have an opportunity to work out with teams, get feedback. Now, in previous cases, it would be feedback, working out with teams and that sort of thing. Well, now it's more Zoom calls with teams, getting a feel for him as a person. And really all they have to go by is film, game film. So we felt like that would be an opportunity for him. Same with Jeremiah Tillman. Of course, Jeremiah didn't play a lot this season due to injury. And then with Mitchell Smith, it was more me communicating with Mitchell Smith because it's something you can do now. And I felt like Mitch being 6'11", a guy that really worked hard down the stretch, defensively, rebounded basketball. He's a guy that can make three-point shots. He's a guy you could see in the future of playing in the NBA. Now, I don't think Mitch would be a guy that would get drafted right now. But I think he's a guy with more experience on his belt, more professional playing, whether it's international, G League, wherever that is. I think Mitch is a guy when it's all said and done would have a chance as he continues to strengthen his body and continue to work on his overall game.
Cuonzo, what's kind of the process for you like in keeping in touch with your team and making sure, they're accounted for and everything? And are you doing anything special? I know some coaches are kind of doing book clubs or trying to do, some camaraderie stuff or something. I was wondering if you were doing any of that.
Well, we do different type of leadership summits. And the last leadership summit we had, because last week and this week was reading week and finals week, so we couldn't have any Zoom calls via team functions. It was anything about academics you can have there, but you couldn't have any calls unless you're making a personal call to a guy, but it couldn't be a team call about anything basketball related. So it had to be academic. So that's different. And we do a lot of it individually. But before that, we would have, twice a week Zoom calls. And that could just be about how you guys doing, how's the team doing, things on leadership, things on character. And the last one we had was about self-improvement. And Drew Smith and X Pinson led that one because I just say, guys, if you want to lead, because I think that's what makes the team grow and the team get better when you give guys ownership of the team. And those are the things that I pray about as a coach, your guys having ownership. And I thought X and Drew did a great job presenting the self-improvement. And one of the biggest things they talked about in doing their research, self-love and self-discipline go hand in hand. And that came from those guys. So for me as a coach, you feel like you're growing, you feel like you're helping your guys when they're able to see those things. But I thought it was great to be a part of. And they asked each individual staff and player, because what we do in our platforms, and I do it all the time, whatever we speak about, I'll call on somebody. It could be a player, it could be a coach, and everybody talks about it, whether it's good or bad. There's no right or wrong, and it's a topic that we all get involved with. And when those guys presented, each one of those guys said, okay, like X said, okay, Coach Corn, do you have anything? What's your advice on that? What would you say? Torrance Watson, what would you have to say? So again, we're always interactive like that. And I thought they presented very well.
Why those two guys, Coach? You touched on it a little bit, but how about going into that a little bit more? Why X and Drew?
Well, they took ownership of it because what I always say, okay, I'm always a guy. You have any questions? Even during games, guys, what do you see out there? What's going on? I'm always communicating like that because I just think for a lot of young guys, they have to take ownership of their lives and their future. And as coaches, we're in this thing together. We kind of put together a game plan, but our players have the right to say, Coach, what about this? What do you think about that? And I think we have that type of open relationship. So in this case, I just said, who's up next? Which guy I want to present? X was the first one stepped up. As soon as X stepped up, Drew Tex came right behind. So I guess both of them guys are, to their credit, they both were ready to step up, and they both stepped up. I said, okay, great, you guys can do it together. And that's what they came up with. And I was really impressed.
Well, when you speak X and Drew, and I know we're talking a lot about them, but they have a very good complementing play style on the court. But when it comes to kind of their attitude or kind of their, who they are as people, I guess, how do they kind of mesh together, you think?
Well, I think what happens, one, oftentimes, and what I've found, even when I was a player, and you a lot of guys struggle with saying another guy's a good player, unless he's clearly a good player. It's easy to say Michael Jordan's good. That's easy. But oftentimes with other guys, it's hard to give credit where it's due. And I think both of those guys recognize that each one of them are good players. And I think they learn from each other, and they love competing against each other. They always you have to break those guys up in practice because, again, if you want to become a better basketball player, I want to go against whoever's perceived the best. And both of them are very talented guys. And the result, when you see down the stretch as we continue to improve as a team, both of those guys were a result of each one of them making each other become better basketball players. And that's what they get along. They're good guys. It's not a case of I need to get more shots. I need to do this. What we found, though, and it helped me as a coach, X is better at going north and south and scoring the basketball, getting downhill, being aggressive. And you saw that again the last 9 games. You really saw that. Drew's more of a guy, and I've said this before, he's similar to a Jonte Porter, a guy that they'll leave the game. They'll have such an impact on the game. You don't know how many they scored, how many rebounds they had, how many assists, how many steals they had, but they had a major impact on the game. And oftentimes you think they were the leading scorer because of their impact. And that's the type of guy Drew is. It's production. That whatever we need to win the game is production. X more of a guy that can score the ball. Even though he has a lot of flash to his passing, he's really more of a guy that's a scorer.
Cuonzo, talking MJ, the Jordans and everything, what are your thoughts on The Last Dance? I know you played against him in one of your 7 or so games.
If you call that playing against him. No, I think it's again, I think it's clear, and from the time I was able to really watch it, because I think oftentimes we make discussions on who's the best player of all the time, what era is this and that. It's hard to really answer that, and everybody's opinion, your opinion, whatever you think is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But what I always say when people say whoever the greatest, I always ask, what's the criteria? So that way I'm better able to answer the question. But I think, in my opinion, Mike was the best to ever do it on a consistent basis. And I think also a guy I wish I would have had a chance to see more of was Oscar Robertson. I wish I could have saw him more as a young guy, but I didn't, because when you talking the production he had, the triple-double, how physical, how tough he was, and his size. And I had a chance to spend 3 weeks with him when I came out of college in Europe on an international basketball trip. And you don't realize how big those guys up close are. And he was actually a point guard. So I wish I could have saw him more. But there's so many great ones. I mean, LeBron, people debate whether LeBron is the best in comparison to Mike. But I've always said, in my opinion, you probably need to compare LeBron to Magic Johnson, Isaiah Thomas, and John Stockton, because he's more of a point guard. He just built differently, moves differently. But I think his nature is more of a point guard. But I just think The Last Dance, I think it's great. I think it's fun for everybody to see. But I think what I try to take away from it, and hopefully young guys that are players and even guys that we're recruiting can see the edge in which those guys played. Not necessarily the physicality, because that was the nature of the game, but the mindset in which those guys prepare and try to win games and how hard they competed. And I think that's something that young guys can really pick up on.
Cuonzo, in the great MJ LeBron GOAT debate, I have to ask what your son's opinions are. Because a lot of people and folks my age see LeBron and think he's the GOAT just because we grew up watching him. But I'm assuming it's a little different for you. So I just wanted to ask what your sons think about that.
Now my oldest son, he would probably say, and now my oldest son, he likes basketball. He's really picked up on it the last couple of years watching and following, but it was never his thing. He ran track and did all the other stuff. But now my son Chase, he would probably say LeBron. He's always been a big LeBron fan, always been a huge LeBron fan. So he would probably say LeBron. But he wears Jordan. So I mean, but he it's amazing how those kids nowadays, they can't live without a pair of Jordans, but they like LeBron.
Got a pair of Jordans coming in today, actually.
You know what's crazy? My daughter, she'll be 13 in June, but she likes wearing Jordans. It's like I'm not a guy that wears them all the time. And I have certain ones that I've never worn, but so I'm not a guy that wears them. And it's not like my other sons, they walk around flaunting that they wear Jordans, but she likes wearing them. And it's amazing how he's over through the course of 30 plus years of generations, maybe 40, I don't know, but how they managed to want to wear his shoes is unbelievable.
Yeah, 35 years since the 85,
Wow.
Jordan 1s, yeah. Cuonzo, I'm going to have to, once this is all over, I'm going to have to see those shoes that you're keeping on.
I'll let you see them.
Shifting gears a little bit, I do want to ask about the non-conference games. Some reports coming out. You got you got KU, Illinois already on it, but you got at Missouri State, at Wichita State, you got Utah. I guess I was wondering what your philosophy was in terms of non-conference and just kind of setting your team up and everything, before the SEC schedule gets off and running.
Well, I think one of the things that you have to look at is, putting yourself in position. I might have mentioned this before, years ago, that you could play a preseason schedule and get 10 to 12 wins almost guaranteed, especially when you're a Power 5 level program. Well, those days are long gone. You have to schedule. You have to put yourself in position to be an NCAA tournament team. So your resume has to show that. So we spent a lot of time really in doing that. We're not done with our scheduling. There's still plenty of work to get done, but we're trying to get quality home games and quality road games, and hopefully we can get this thing completed here in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Hey, it's Blair. We have a special subscription offer for SportsBeat KC listeners, unlimited digital access to the Kansas City Star's award-winning sports coverage. Sign up now for 1 year of SportsPass for access to all the sports news, features, and columns presented on the kansascity.com site, and it's only $30. That's a 40% savings off our regular rate. Your subscription will automatically renew after the initial term at $50 unless you tell us to cancel. Your subscription helps support the sports coverage of kansascity.com and the Kansas City Star, and that support has never been more important. Please visit kansascity.com/SportsBeatKC offer to get this special offer. And as always, thanks for listening. Cuonzo, I wanted to ask you a little bit about the challenges of recruiting in this world. And I know the NABC recommended extending the dead period for until July 31st. What do you got thoughts on that? And just and speak to the challenges of recruiting in this time.
Well, I think good question. I think the biggest thing when you look at that is and you have to applaud the coaches because the most important thing is health and safety. When you're talking student athletes as well as high school prospects, and as coaches, I'm on the NABC and I'm on the men's basketball oversight committee, and when we're on those calls, the most important thing that we talk about is health and safety of our current student athletes, but also the prospects in which we're recruiting. So if that means shutting down the month of June, it means shutting down the month of July, so everybody's healthy and safe, then that's what we'll do. And I think that's where it starts, because again, if this was a normal spring and summer, we'd have AAU basketball, summer basketball. In April, we'd have it in June, we'd have it in July. But right now, the most important thing is just making sure everybody's healthy, and you have to take it very seriously. And that's it. It's I wish I could say more about it, but for me, that's where it starts and finishes: health and safety.
Cuonzo, what timeline are you kind of hearing for students coming back on campus? I've heard that June 1st date is kind of a target date. And I mean, I remember a couple of months ago when the NBA shut down, that every other league kind of shut down, but now we're seeing, facilities kind of open up. Do you think that kind of contributes to, you guys being able to have summer workouts and everything?
Well, I know there was a date, Jim Sterk's presented to us a tentative date of June 1st. Now, it all depends. Luckily for us, and not all of our guys, from a proximity standpoint, if we had to tell our guys what time to get on campus, we would be okay for those guys to get back on campus. But again, that's that's a date right now. But I think we'll take it week to week, and whatever Jim, meaning the SEC, Jim Sterk, the NCAA, whatever those guys decide, then we move from there. But there's no sense of urgency. But we let our guys know, our players know, and all of our guys in a good place as far as proximity. So we need to have those guys come on campus, and we won't start anything until everybody gets here anyway. And it's just a wait and see. But I think more than anything, our guys are active, and I think the plus side about it, most of our guys are at home with their families, and I think that's a lot of great time to really continue to build those family relationships. And sometimes when you're gone so long, you lose sight of what it means to be with your family. Because I remember when I left for high school, it's like I never really went back. And outside of, I didn't have the Thanksgivings to go back. I didn't have the Christmases, maybe a day and a half. So to have this kind of time as a student athlete with your family is really impressive because you don't get this amount of time.
Because of NCAA kind of ruled within the past few weeks on the sponsorship of athletes and being able to make money off their name and likeness. There's been some thoughts on both sides of that. I guess what are your kind of thoughts on that, and how do you kind of see it maybe affecting college basketball in the future?
Man, that's a good one. I just think I think right now we on an SEC call with Greg Sankey, SEC coaches. That was one of the big topics. It just the unknown is how the NCAA moves forward, and I think what you want to do more than anything. You want every state to be governed the same way, whether the NCAA is governing everything. You want it to kind of fall in line. You don't want every state to do different things. I think that's where the problems could possibly occur. So as long as everybody's in line, and I think, it's probably long overdue. You want your athletes. Of course, I think what cost for tennis athletes, the NCAA has done a great job improving financial support for the athletes with cost of attendance, now name, image, and likeness. I think the biggest thing and the thing that I'm curious about is just how they go about it. I want to see that as well, because you always want to see people get what they deserve or what they're worth. But I'm interested to see how it operates and how you proceed now. Will the athletes be taxed on what they benefit off for? So all those things have to be answered because, again, it happens so fast, even though there's been talks over the years. But I just think it's almost like the last 3 or 4 months is down the stretch. This is happening. Now we have to, along with the coronavirus, now we have to take our time and make the right decisions. Now, and again, I think at the end of the day, again, I'll say this again, I want our student athletes get everything they're supposed to get, but you don't want anything to cripple the college sports. That's all sports, not just your revenue sports, but all sports. Because I think one thing about college athletics, when you have all sports, the camaraderie of athletes, male and female, I think all those things great, and it creates great memories.
Hey, will it become part of the recruiting pitch, name, image, and likeness?
I think so. I think for every school, when you're talking about a state of of Missouri of this magnitude, I think it certainly will be for us.
What do you think? What does it look like when it does? Let's say the NCAA, it's not a 50 state 50 rule thing, but it is an NCAA bylaw. What will it look like? How will it be employed?
Well, see, that's the part that I think the NCAA is working on as we speak. And like I said, we was talking about that as coaches yesterday. That's the part that we want to find out, because that was a question that we all asked. But I'll give you an example. One of the things, like say, for example, you take, say, a Michael Porter Jr. Here's a guy, he goes down the court, he dunks the ball, and it gets, 100 to a million views.
Right.
Well, big time dunk and all that. Well, if name, image, and likeness, Mike can't take that image because it has a Mizzou logo on it, a Mizzou branding. He can't take that photo and profit off that photo because of the branding. It would almost have to be Michael Porter Jr. with just a regular shirt on making that move. So you can't profit off the university's name or logo. And I know that sounds strange, but yes.
Okay, so the other thing I wanted to find out from you is, have you been able to catch up on any TV binge watching? Any good books, or have you caught up in that aspect of your life at all?
I will say this. This time has been the best for me because I've probably read more books in these 8 weeks than I've probably read in the last, I'd say 8 to 10 years, which is crazy because when the season hit, I might be able to get a book. It depends on what the book is. If it's a great book, I can get it out the way in 3 or 4 weeks. But I mean, you're talking about. I'll tell you a book that I think you might like. Is Never Split the Difference, and it's Negotiating as If Your Life Depended on It by Chris Voss. Never Split the Difference. What else I read?
I'm writing that one down.
Yeah, Never Split the Difference. I finished a book by. If you're into business, I finished a book by T.D. Jakes. T.D. Jakes is a bishop out of Dallas, Texas. It's called SOAR, SOAR, and it's basically how you build a company from scratch in today's age. And it's just, I think it's a really good book. And I finished a 7-book series, audio book series with my wife. I don't want to give you that name. I can't give that now. I'll give you that name off the air. I'll give you that one, but I can't
Okay.
I can't give it to you now. It's one that my wife likes, but it's okay. And then I'm finishing up as we speak a book called The Wealth Choice, Success Secrets. The Wealth Choice. That's a good book. But it's been a great time for me, just really reading, getting sound information. And after I finish this Gridiron Genius, I have to finish up Jimmy Dyke's book. So I've just been going and going and going. And I don't know if you guys practice this, and I don't know if it's good or bad, but I've managed to somehow do 2 books at a time, as long as they're different books. Because I take notes with my books. I write stuff down. So I take a lot of notes with them, but as long as they're 2 different books. But I'm not necessarily into a lot of sports books, unless it's about leadership or, some triumphs, some hard times, some struggles. But I'm not necessarily into a lot of sports books like that. I don't need nothing that you already know. I want to know where the struggles came from and how people came out of it.
Cuonzo, any TV shows recommendations you have? I'm sure some Mizzou fans would, if they catch you on the street, maybe they'll be like, Cuonzo, that latest season of whatever you're watching.
No, okay, we finished off. We binged very hard on Ozark.
Okay.
Also, there was a TV show called Greenleaf. We finished that one off, and we just finished the 4th season. What else? Let me see. Those are the 2 shows. Now, I can't think of the name of it right now, but it's God, my staff told me about her. She was in the cartel. I can't think of her name, but I'm waiting on the next season to come back out. But that's how it is. It's just all we watch really at home now is CNN when we watch. Not trying to watch much of that because it gets to my stomach watching some of that. So I have to watch it just to keep updated. CNN, maybe ESPN for about 20 minutes just to be updated. And after that, we might catch a movie here and there. But really, it's been a lot of reading and peace of mind and just really family time. And that part has really been great.
Cuonzo, have you watched Tiger King? I mean, you do coach the Mizzou Tigers.
That
laugh tells me you have.
Wait! I saw that first episode. I said, I can't take this. This work on your brains. I can't. It was funny. It was funny, crazy, whatever. I mean, I think it was entertaining, kind of weird. All the above. It just, I just feel like with as minimal brain waves as I have, I can't afford to give it that kind of time. I really can't. I need to spend time somewhere else. But I thought it was entertaining. My staff was telling me about it. I just said, and I can't do it right now because for me, when I try to commit to a series and I stick with like for example, I forgot one, Breaking Bad. I've been watched on Breaking Bad. Now, whenever that came out, it's like it might have been out 10 years ago, but I binge watched on that one. I really like that one. So, because once I commit to, I got about 4 or 5 that I commit to, and I just lock in on. Because I don't, and if I don't do that, then it's more of a movie. Now, I did watch Power. I watched Power. If you've seen that, but other than that, I'll catch a movie here and there. Like I saw Rambo, the last Rambo with Sylvester Stallone. I've always been a big fan of Sylvester Stallone, but that's it. But no, this time, these 8 weeks has really been the best for me. As far as getting caught up on a lot of things, because when I got in this profession in 2020, grateful to be in it, but it seems like I've been going 90 miles an hour since 2020, and it's really the first time that I've been at home with my family on a consistent basis. Other than that, it's just like you tread water.
No, I hear you. You're absolutely right. We're all doing doing things that we never thought we had time to do, and we didn't have time to do before now. And grateful for some of these entertainment options that we do have. But I sure do miss sports. How about yourself, Cuonzo? What any particular sport besides your own that you're missing these days?
Ah, man, again, I grew up playing baseball. That was my first love. But once I got to high school, it just kind of fizzed out. So I need to get caught up back in the baseball game. But other than that, just it's amazing how what I do, and then when you have kids, then your life becomes whatever they're doing. Like my oldest son, it was track, basketball, volleyball. So that's what it is. And again, you don't really have a lot of time to watch TV. And again, when I was growing up, that's all you had was TV when you're in the house. Well, my kids, they rarely, if ever, watch TV. So it's not really on. They don't have them in their rooms like that. If they do, they'd never come on. So it's like it's YouTube shows on YouTube. So it's just really whatever they're doing, and I enjoy it.
Well, we sure do enjoyed talking to you and you're spending this time with us today, Cuonzo. That was fantastic, and look, continued good health and good luck, and we hope to catch up with you again soon.
No, thank you guys for having me.
That'll do it for today. Thanks to our production staff of Derek Donovan, Savannah Smith, Randy Mason, Beth Welch, Jeff Rosen, and Chris Fickett. Tip of the cap to Souichi Terada for navigating us through the Cuonzo Martin interview. Links to the stories we discussed can be found in the show notes. Hey, earlier in the episode, you heard me talk about the SportsPass offer. Still stands, and it's a good one, $30 for a year's worth of sports coverage, and that includes the Sports Extra on the e-edition. There are 22 additional pages of national sports coverage today. Well, here's an even better offer. Buy the entire Kansas City Star product. Sports, news, features, commentary, analysis, the whole thing. You get all of the stories written by my talented colleagues, plus additional news, sports, and business coverage. The details can be found at account.kansascity.com/subscribe. That's account.kansascity.com/subscribe. All help is greatly appreciated. Whether it's the Sports Pass or the full subscription, you're supporting our news coverage and helping us deliver products like SportsBeat KC. Thanks for listening.